Charles is the Conservative Member of Parliament for Broxbourne, but is also Vice Chairman of the Conservative 1922 Committee of Backbenchers and a former Chair of the Procedures Committee. A been there, cares about standards sort of man. Charles, great to see you. You must have seen this coming, but did the scale of the defeat shock you?
So, Alistair, I don't think I've got anything to add after your brilliant introductory monologue where you summed up the travails of the Conservative Party so eloquently. I was asked by a journalist colleague of yours if we were in the Strangers Bar yesterday, and he asked me, where do you see this ending up, Charles? I would have said, if we win by 1,000, I won't be surprised, but if we lose by 1,000 or two, I won't be surprised either. So I was slightly surprised by the scale of the loss, but I knew it was always in the balance. It was one of those seats that, given the 12 weeks the parties had, that looked like it could go either way.
To turn it round personally, and I come to the party and some of the stuff that Vera and I talked about there, and indeed you and I have talked about before in the past, the consensus seems to be that if Boris Johnson can stop the gaffes, purge the Muppets, tell the truth and get more Tory again on the economy, he can survive it. If he can't, he's done.
I think he's got a hugely difficult challenge over the next 6 months with Omicron, more calls on the public purse to rightly look after the hospitality sector that's suffering again. But Alistair, he has made a number of unforced errors, mistakes over the past 8 to 12 weeks, which we can all do. I mean, being Prime Minister is a fiendishly difficult job. But I do maintain he's still got much more right than he's got wrong. Sadly, what's happened over the last few weeks has overshadowed the really big decisions he's got right, starting with ordering hundreds of millions of doses of vaccines, through to the timing of the summer unlocking, through to the booster programme. So I still think the big things he's got right.
Are his instincts still truly Tory? His economic instincts above all else?
I think it's very difficult to be a Conservative in the sense of cutting taxes and doing what Conservatives like to do when we're in uncharted territory with COVID-19. We've had furlough initiatives, perfectly understandable and justifiable and rather fantastic, but we've borrowed £430 billion. I just think people have to be realistic about what a government can do. We've also, as you know, Alistair, we've got inflation running at 5%, which is another tax on incomes. This is an extraordinary vice that the economy is and household earnings are in. Sorry, both the economy's in and household earnings are in. And I'm sure all the things he'd like to do and that Rishi would like to do are now very difficult to do.
But I'm just going to press you that because it is a nuance,
Sure.
And I accept that. But my point specifically was not force majeure, which the coronavirus most certainly is, but are his instincts, and you know him quite well, are his instincts still essentially Tory, or are they sort of liberal Tory?
Oh, look. I think Boris is a Conservative, but there are various flavours of conservatism, and I think he is on the liberal end of the Conservative flavour, but of those flavours. But look, he is the Prime Minister. He's had an extraordinary difficult time. Sometimes he drives me wild. I mean, as you know, I'm often in a different division lobby to the Prime Minister. He can drive me to sort of the very end of frustration at times, but really the idea that there's someone better out there, that this is somehow an anathema that a Prime Minister, whoever he is or she is, has a difficult time, I just think that is unrealistic. All Prime Ministers have difficult times when the seas get really, really choppy. The question is, can he navigate himself and the party out of those choppy seas over the next 6 to 9 months?
You said elsewhere tonight that to have a leadership election now would be self-indulgent. But given that choppy waters and getting him through this and reasserting what you believe to be his instinctive core beliefs, how long has he got to do that?
Look, I think he's got a year plus. Alistair, you interviewed me during the sort of terrible time in the run-up to the defenestration of Theresa May. You know it doesn't happen overnight. To get to Theresa's resignation in May, it was 6 months of trench warfare. I don't think, given the challenges facing this country and families, they would ever forgive the Conservative Party for getting into those trenches and actually having a civil war amongst each other. Yeah, I just don't think that's on the cards for a very long time. And I do genuinely believe the Prime Minister can turn it around. Do I approve of everything he does? Absolutely not. Do I think his instincts in the main are good and decent? Yes, I do.
Is one of the other brutal truths, Charles, that at the moment there isn't a single candidate around whom the majority of the Parliamentary Conservative Party could unite?
Well, I mean, I don't go around looking at potential candidates. I look at the Prime Minister that we have, and I think anybody pushing themselves as a candidate, however subtly at the moment, is misreading the mood and the mood of the party. I think the party is serious about wanting to get the country back on its feet, wanting to get businesses back on its feet, wanting to finally say goodbye or get Omicron and COVID-19 back in its box. And I think anybody who regards this as a time when the Prime Minister's clearly in difficulty, as a time to advance their own cause, is doing themselves a disservice, the party a disservice, but most importantly, the country a disservice.
Message received and understood loud and clear. Finally, would you agree with me, and I put my little neck on the line a little bit in saying it, but I say it because I genuinely believe it, that post the reshuffle, Labour is now beginning to look like they are getting their act together. And I quote, just as one example, Wes Streeting responding to Sajid Javid just 2 days ago in the House of Commons, saying the right thing, not playing to the gallery, offering support where it's appropriate and criticism where it's equally appropriate. They're looking a little bit more of a serious threat to you than they were 12 or 18 months ago.
Alistair, I'm less generous than you on that. I think Labour is utterly ruthless. Labour has quite brilliantly set the narrative running that it was Labour votes that got the Prime Minister's Plan B through. Of course, you and I know, because we're anoraks and we're in the business, that Labour could have sat on its hands and the government would have won a majority 2-1. It would have had about 225 in its lobby for the regulations, with 100 of us rebelling. And Labour's been quite brilliant at positioning itself as having saved the day for the Prime Minister, which of course it didn't do at all. But look, that's politics, and Labour's playing a much harder and better game than it's played for many years.